I didn't expect a red carpet. I didn't need applause or camera flashes. Honestly, I didn't even need a seat at the front. I just wanted to be there, to show up for her, to make her proud, to remind her that she didn't get here alone. That behind every milestone of hers, there was someone quietly standing in the shadows, clapping the loudest. That someone was me. That night, I stepped out of the car a little earlier than planned. I wanted to surprise her. The black tux I wore was the same one from our wedding, tailored again, a little tighter around the shoulders now. I held a small, elegant box in my hand. Inside was a Mont Blanc timepiece, limited edition, black leather band, sapphire crystal face. She'd once mentioned it casually when passing through a boutique in Milan. Understated but powerful, she said. Just like you. I walked up to the venue, heart light, steps firm. The lights from the ballroom streamed through tall windows like golden silk. It was Argento and Gray's 10-year anniversary, a night Isla had been working toward for months. Actually, for years. And I'd helped build it, piece by piece. From quiet dinners discussing strategy to weekends I gave up so she could rehearse speeches. From seed capital to late-night coffee runs. The foyer was buzzing with guests. Men in tailored suits, women in elegant gowns, champagne flutes clinking softly as jazz floated in the background. I approached the reception desk, smiling. "Reed Callahan," I said, adjusting my cuffs slightly. "Here for Isla." The young woman behind the desk typed something. Then again, her expression shifted. "I'm sorry," she said, voice polite but brisk. "I don't see that name on the list." I blinked, surprised but calm. "Could you check again?" "I'm her husband." She hesitated and glanced toward a man standing near the door, earpiece in his ear, hand resting on his belt. "Security. I'll call someone," she offered, clearly uncomfortable. Moments later, a tall man in a charcoal gray suit walked toward us. I recognized him instantly. Damon, Isla's CFO. We'd met a few times. He gave me a cursory nod. "Reed. Hey. There seems to be a mix-up with the guest list," I said lightly, still holding the gift box. Damon didn't bother to look at the list. "This event's just for core staff and major stakeholders." I frowned. "I helped fund this event." "Right," he said, glancing at his watch. "But you're not technically part of the leadership team." That stung. I opened my mouth to reply, but he beat me to it, turning to the guard nearby. "He's not on the list. Please escort him out." The guard stepped forward gently but firmly. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." I didn't speak. "Not yet." And then Damon, as he turned back toward the ballroom, said it. Not even under his breath. "Get this beggar out of here." That's when the room seemed to slow. "Beggar?" I stood there, tux perfectly pressed, holding a gift that cost more than the average rent in the city, and somehow in their world, I was a beggar? I looked past him into the ballroom. There she was, Isla, standing under a chandelier, surrounded by executives and board members. Her dress was emerald green, her smile wide. She was radiant, powerful, exactly how I'd always wanted her to feel. But something inside me, something buried under years of quiet sacrifices, cracked. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. Instead, I turned. I walked back down the marble steps, past the valet who smiled politely and clearly had no idea what had just happened. I didn't give him the ticket for the car. I needed a moment. I walked 2 blocks in silence, still holding the box. My phone buzzed once, probably a promotional email. Not Isla. She didn't know yet. Or maybe she did. Maybe it was intentional. I wasn't sure what was worse. I sat on a cold bench outside a closed bakery and finally opened the box, not to look at the watch, but just to breathe. I stared at the clean design, the engraved backplate that said, "For all the time you gave me." The irony nearly made me laugh. It wasn't just a watch. It was a thank you, a symbol, of time spent supporting her dreams, of hours and years I gave without asking for much. Not credit, not a seat at the board, just respect, just a place at her side. And yet, on the night of her biggest celebration, the man who watched her rise from shaky proposals to Forbes interviews had become invisible. Worse, unwelcome. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. I was numb. Numb in the way you get when you realize the person you built your world around never really built theirs around you. I sat there for almost an hour, thinking, replaying conversations. The times I said, "Let's wait on that vacation," put it into the company instead. The nights I packed her lunches before big pitch meetings. The time I stayed up until 4 a.m. adjusting her keynote slides because her designer quit last minute. How many of those sacrifices had become expectations? And how many of those expectations had turned into erasure? I walked home. I didn't slam doors or throw the watch against the wall like some bitter ex in a soap opera. No, that wasn't me. I walked into our apartment, clean, minimalist, filled with curated art pieces she loved, and placed the watch on the marble counter. Then I stood still, and something in me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. I realized that somewhere along the line, I had been edited out of the story. I was the invisible ink in the footnotes. And now they were celebrating the novel, pretending I never helped write the first chapters. I looked around at the space we built together. And for the first time in a long time, I started thinking, not about how to support her next move, but how to make mine. The next morning, I stood in the kitchen staring at the coffee maker like it might give me answers. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. No footsteps on the marble tiles. No humming from the bathroom as Isla got ready. No scent of her perfume floating through the hall. Just silence. Heavy and clear. She'd stayed out after the gala. Of course she had. Probably went straight to the hotel suite they'd booked for the night. A perk I'd prepaid with my own card 3 months ago when I still believed I'd be at her side, smiling for pictures and clinking glasses. When I still believed I was part of the journey. I took my coffee black. No cream today. Something about sweetness felt wrong. As I stood by the window looking over the city we'd carved our lives into, my mind wandered back through the years. Quiet, steady memories that now played like proof in a courtroom. We met when Isla was just launching Argento and Gray. Back then, it was her and a small rented office with peeling paint and a stubborn thermostat. I remember bringing her takeout during late nights, setting up a makeshift whiteboard with sticky notes because she couldn't afford one. I remember pulling out a small loan under my name to help cover her first marketing run. It's just until we land that first big client, she'd said. You'll get it back. I wasn't looking for reimbursement. I was looking for partnership, for something we could build together. But somehow, over time, it became her dream and my responsibility, her spotlight and my shadow. She started climbing fast, networking, closing deals, building a brand. And I clapped. I clapped even when she stopped introducing me as her husband at some events, opting instead for Reed, he works in finance, as if that explained my presence better. She loved the image. The story of the girl boss who made it on her own, who rose without help. And I let her tell it, because I loved her. But now it felt like I'd paid for a ticket to a movie I wasn't allowed to watch. Worse, like I'd funded the production and been cut from the credits. I pulled open the drawer next to the fridge where we kept old receipts and warranties. Most people forgot about those drawers, messy little timelines of financial choices. I didn't. I kept every receipt, every bank statement, every invoice tagged and filed. I'd always been meticulous. Isla teased me about it once, said I was financially romantic. I guess that's one way to say, you're doing all the boring, important things while I take the glory. That drawer held our real history. A lease payment here. A conference fee there. New laptops for her interns. Office chairs. Flights to meet clients. Promotional videos. Staff bonuses, 12 of them, signed under my account. Most people would have seen a pile of expenses. I saw love letters. The kind that don't get framed or posted on Instagram. As I sifted through them, I realized something. I wasn't just forgotten. I'd been used. Silently. Willingly. And maybe that was the worst part. How easily I'd let it happen in the name of love. When Isla finally walked through the door at noon, she looked collected. No shame. No apology. Just her usual poised self in designer sunglasses and a blazer I'd gifted her last Christmas. She took them off and looked at me like I was a minor inconvenience. Read, she said, setting down her bag. About last night, I raised a hand gently. You don't have to explain. But of course she did. It was a curated event. We had to keep the guest list tight. Sponsors, investors, internal leads, you didn't think I qualified. Her eyes darted. It wasn't personal. That was the line that did it. That's when I finally looked her in the eye and said, it was always personal. You just stopped seeing me as part of it. She rolled her eyes. Reed, don't do this. You're being dramatic. I almost laughed. Dramatic? After being thrown out of a party I helped pay for? After hearing someone call me a beggar while my wife stood beneath chandeliers I'd funded? I didn't argue. Instead, I walked over to the dining table, placed a folder down, and slid it toward her. You want to talk facts? Let's talk. She opened it, confused. Inside were neatly printed spreadsheets, expenses tracked over the past 7 years. My name, my cards, my accounts, a timeline of invisible support. Each column was labeled: date, purpose, payment type, amount, notes. Total support value, $198,740.34. She stared at the number. What is this? Our story. The part you never tell. She said nothing. I leaned back in my chair. You didn't just forget me. You erased me. And I let you. Because I thought love was about giving. But at some point, love became an invoice with only one name at the bottom. Read, she started, but stopped. I didn't ask you to do all this. You expected it. And I kept delivering. Her expression shifted, defensive, proud. This isn't fair. You always said you believed in what I was building. I did, I said. But now I realize you were never building it with me. You were building it on me. The silence between us felt thick, almost physical. Like we were sitting in the ruins of a home we both pretended was still standing. I stood up slowly and looked at her for a long moment. You don't need to apologize, I said. I'm not looking for that. Then what do you want? I gave a small, tired smile. Nothing. For once, I want absolutely nothing. And I meant it. There's a special kind of grief that comes from realizing you were never truly seen. That you were loved for your usefulness, not your presence. And that once your usefulness runs out, you become disposable. That night, I didn't touch dinner. I sat on the balcony, sipping a glass of wine alone, watching the city lights flicker on. Isla stayed in her office down the hall. Doors closed. Walls growing. I didn't cry. I didn't pack a bag. Not yet. I wasn't done thinking. I wasn't done feeling. But the shift had already begun. And somewhere deep inside me, a quiet voice whispered, she doesn't get to do this again. Not without consequence. I didn't plan to go to the gala. Not really. Originally, I thought I'd just leave the gift on her desk, send a quick text, and head back home. Let her shine. Let her have her moment. That's what she always said she needed, space to be seen. And for years, I gave it. But something about that night pulled at me. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe it was foolish hope. That maybe, just maybe, after everything I'd poured into her company, into her, I'd show up, and she'd look at me like she used to. With warmth. With gratitude. With even a sliver of the love I'd spent years wrapping around her like armor. So I ironed the tux. It wasn't new, but it still fit like it had the first time. The same one I wore when we danced under dim fairy lights on our wedding night. Back then, we couldn't afford a ballroom. We'd rented a small community space, filled it with second-hand string lights, and borrowed chairs. She had whispered to me, someday, we'll host something in a place like that, pointing at a glossy ad in a bridal magazine. I remembered that ad now, because it looked eerily similar to where the Argento and Gray Gala was being held. The irony was sharp. We made it, and I had helped us get there. So I went. Quietly. No driver. No fanfare. I booked a cab, stepped out 2 blocks away, and walked in with the timepiece in my inner pocket, fingers resting against the box like I could transfer some warmth into it. I passed guests in velvet and silk, voices spilling into the street. My name wasn't on the list. I already knew that. I wasn't here for a seat. I was here to see it with my own eyes. I stood on the sidewalk across from the entrance, behind the valet station, just out of view. And there she was. Isla, my wife. Centerpiece of the night. She glided down the carpet like she was born for it. Cameras flashed. Her silver gown caught every light like a mirror. She waved, smiled, laughed, rehearsed but captivating. I watched her pose with executives, board members, and, yes, Jarrett. Jarrett. Tall. Tan. That fake casual confidence he always carried like a trophy. He was standing too close. Too familiar. Whispering something in her ear that made her laugh in a way I hadn't heard in months. Not at home. Not with me. I stepped back into the shadows, my stomach twisting, not from jealousy, but from clarity. I didn't belong here. Not because I wasn't worthy, but because they had carefully edited me out. I tried not to be bitter. Really. I tried to remind myself that ambition changes people. That success shifts the dynamics. That sometimes, people forget themselves in the process of becoming someone new. But the more I watched, the harder it became to excuse what I was seeing. They toasted with crystal glasses. The ballroom, draped in white and gold, held over 100 guests. All handpicked. All included. And yet, not one of them had my name on their lips. not even hers. I stepped closer, drawn in by the sound of her voice over the mic. A toast. I want to thank the people who believed in me when this was just a dream, she said, chin lifted, eyes sparkling. To my team, my partners, and my co-founder in spirit, Jared Gray, you are the other half of this company's heartbeat. The room clapped. Loudly. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. She continued, to those who gave me space to grow, who cheered from the sidelines. Thank you. This isn't just my night. It's ours. Sidelines. That's where I live now. A faceless cheerleader in the shadows. A thank you lumped in with general gratitude. Not a name. Not a face. Not even a nod. I looked down at the gift in my pocket. It felt heavier than before. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I think I was still holding on to some hope. So I did something stupid. I tried to go in. Not to crash it. Not to make a scene. Just to say congratulations. To see her. Face to face. Maybe feel like I existed again. That's when the security guard stopped me. The same scene replayed. Name. I told him. He didn't even look at the list. You're not cleared for entry. I asked, quietly, if he could check again. He didn't. Instead, he looked to the side, and there stood Jared. He walked over with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. Reed. Hey, sorry man. This is kind of an internal thing. I looked him over. Internal? Yeah, you know. Staff? Stakeholders. It's been tight. I paid for half the venue, I said calmly. He raised his eyebrows. You were reimbursed. I wasn't. He gave a low chuckle, like I was making something awkward. It's not the time or place, buddy. You'll make her uncomfortable. And that's when I saw Isla, watching, from inside the doorway. Our eyes met. She didn't come forward, didn't wave, didn't say anything, just looked. And then she turned her back. The guard took a step forward. Sir, I'm leaving, I said, lifting my hand. But Jared, because he couldn't help himself, leaned in and muttered, this is her world now. Might be time to stop holding her back. That was it. I didn't punch him. Didn't throw the box. Didn't scream. I just smiled. That quiet, chilling kind of smile. Because I knew something he didn't. He might have had the lights, the champagne, the crowd tonight. But the moment she needed the foundation of that world, the quiet deposits, the funding, the favors, the loyalty, it would all start shaking. And I would no longer be there to hold it still. I walked away, the box still in my pocket. I passed the photographers, the valet, the crowds. I didn't turn back. Not once. Because I'd finally seen it clearly. I wasn't a part of the celebration. I was the scaffolding they used to build it, and then discarded the moment the building stood tall enough. And now? Now I was done pretending that was okay. When I got home that night, I didn't switch on the lights. I didn't need to. The apartment was already too familiar. Every chair, every painting, every shelf placed just how she wanted it. I sat down at the dining table, the gift box still in my jacket pocket. The weight of it had shifted. It no longer felt like a symbol of appreciation. It felt like a receipt. A reminder of how long I'd been paying for a love that had quietly gone bankrupt. I reached for my laptop. It was sitting where I always left it, centered, charged, clean. I opened it like I had 100 times before. But tonight, it wasn't for spreadsheets or budgeting. It was for action. I went to the first tab I'd bookmarked weeks ago, our anniversary trip to Bora Bora. A private villa on the water, complete with a chef, couples massage, and underwater dining experience. I had paid the deposit in full, $13,500. A surprise. One I never got to reveal because she'd been too busy with back-to-back strategy sessions. Click. Canceled. Refund processed. Next, the Aspen Leadership Retreat. This one wasn't for us, but for her team. She told me the board needed a high-end bonding getaway to pitch to new investors. I'd paid the travel agency directly $18,000 for accommodations, ski passes, and executive lodging. Another favor. Another unthanked gift. Click. Access revoked. Confirmation email sent. Then came the corporate software license renewal, $7 for 100 from my consulting card. I logged into the vendor dashboard and updated the billing details to an empty shell account. Automatic renewal. Disabled. And the final blow, her upcoming executive lounge renovation. She wanted a private space in the office to think, complete with custom furniture and mood lighting. I'd already wired $21,400 to the design company, scheduled to complete in 4 weeks. I made a single phone call. "Read Callahan," I said, calm and polite. "I'd like to cancel the upcoming installation. Please issue a stop order." The payment was personal, not corporate. "I'll send written confirmation now." They complied. It took less than 90 minutes to undo over $60,000 worth of support. Money she never questioned. Support she never asked about twice. She just assumed it would be there, because I had always made sure it was. But not this time. By 2 a.m. I was still staring at my screen. The numbers weren't just digits. They were chapters of a story I hadn't realized I'd been writing alone. I thought about all the ways I'd said, "I love you," over the years without ever using those words. In hotel confirmations, in paid invoices, in arranged meetings, fixed computers, last-minute florist runs, and "don't worry, I've got it" texts. And not once had she stopped to ask if I was okay, if I needed something, if I felt seen. She used to. In the beginning, she'd hug me from behind while I made coffee. She'd say things like, "I couldn't do this without you," or "You're my favorite person." And then those phrases stopped. They were replaced by, "Did you pay the caterer yet?" Or "Can you call the driver?" Slowly, love became logistics. Marriage became management. And now? Now I was reducing my role back to zero. I logged into our shared calendar and deleted myself from every upcoming event. No +1 at her award dinner. No appearance at her quarterly fundraiser. I even removed my saved contacts from her PR firm's holiday mailing list. And finally, I did something that made my chest feel tight. I opened the shared folder labeled Callahan Argento Finances. I created a copy, renamed it Final, then removed my access from the original. I wasn't just pulling the plug on funding. I was pulling the plug on pretending. At 3:12 a.m., I received a notification, "Calendar change alert, Aspen Retreat booking removed." I ignored it. Then came a second, vendor balance dispute, email from events manager. Then the text, "ISLA, read, did you change something with the Aspen thing? Just got a weird message." I stared at the screen. Not "Hey," not "Can we talk," not "Are you okay?" Just straight to the transaction. I didn't reply. I shut the laptop slowly and stood in the middle of the kitchen, breathing in the silence. I looked around at the glass jars on the shelf, labeled, color-coded, perfectly stacked. All her design. All her world. I'd built it, but it never became mine. I walked to the bedroom, slid the Mont Blanc watch box onto her pillow. Then I packed a bag. Not to leave permanently, but enough to make the silence noticeable. As I zipped the suitcase, a memory crept in. Her voice from years ago. "If I ever get too big for myself, promise me you'll remind me who I really am." I almost smiled, because this was that moment, and she hadn't even noticed it arrived. At exactly 9:07 p.m. the next evening, my phone lit up. I had just poured a glass of scotch, nothing fancy, just something smooth enough to take the edge off, and was sitting on the balcony of the hotel I checked into that morning. A small place. Quiet. Nothing like the marble and glass loft Isla and I called home. But it felt real. Simple. Honest. The screen buzzed again. ISLA 2 missed calls. I let it ring out. Then came the texts. ISLA, read. Did you cancel the Bali suite? Isla. What's going on with the Aspen payment? The agency said the deposit bounced. Marcy, her assistant, hey. Sorry to bother you, but quick question. Did you change the payment method for the gala videographer? They emailed about a voided charge. Super confused. I took another sip and scrolled. Jared, yo, did you pull the plug on the caterer? What the hell, man? That one made me pause. Man, he had never called me that before. Never messaged me directly unless it was about logistics. Always filtered his needs through Isla. But now? Now they needed me. Not because they missed me, but because the foundation was crumbling, and the person who kept it level had finally stepped back. The flood came next. Ping, ping, ping. A waterfall of alerts from the payment processor. Notice, autopay failure, Argento, and gray annual licensing renewal. Reminder, travel itinerary voided. Contact your agent to reschedule. Warning, office renovation project paused due to insufficient funds. I set the phone down without replying, not because I was being cruel, but because silence, real, deliberate silence, speaks louder than any revenge speech or petty argument ever could. At 9:41 p.m., another call buzzed in. Then another. Then another. By the time I finished the scotch, the tally was 36 missed calls, 17 texts, and 2 voicemails, both from Isla. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I walked to the hotel lobby, handed the front desk a polite smile, and requested no further calls be patched through to my room. I turned off notifications, placed the phone face down on the nightstand, and for the first time in what felt like years, I went to sleep without a to-do list waiting in the morning. But rest doesn't always bring peace. I woke up at 6:13 a.m. to soft knocking. At first, I thought it was housekeeping. Then I heard it. That voice. Tired. A little frantic. Muffled through the door. "Reed, are you in there?" I sat up slowly. She knocked again. "Please, just open the door." I didn't move right away. I just listened. Her breathing was uneven. No heels today. No confident footsteps or clipped tone. Just Isla. Raw. Stripped of pretense. Not the version she gave the media or the board. The version she only let me see when things went wrong. Still, I hesitated. It took 3 more knocks before I got up, pulled on a shirt, and opened the door. She looked nothing like the woman from the gala. No makeup. Hair tied back. Pale. Wrinkled shirt like she hadn't changed since the night before. "Hi," she said, voice soft. She tried to smile, but it collapsed halfway. I stepped aside. She entered the room quietly, eyes scanning the small space. One bed, one chair, a half-open suitcase on the floor. No extravagance, no luxury, just me, as I've always been. "I've been trying to call," she said, wringing her hands. I saw. Silence stretched between us. She sat on the edge of the bed. I stayed by the window. "You didn't have to cancel everything," she said finally. It felt vindictive. I turned to her, calm. Was it vindictive to leave me off the guest list? To stand there while they called me a beggar? She looked down. "That wasn't supposed to happen. The list was curated. For image. For your image," I corrected. She didn't argue. "I'm not trying to fight," she said, voice cracking a little. I didn't expect you to go this far." "This far?" I echoed. "You mean finally drawing a line? Is that what this is?" she whispered. "Drawing a line? Or erasing me?" I sat in the chair across from her. "No, Isla. I'm erasing myself. From a version of this marriage where I only existed when you needed a transaction. Where my love was measured in wire transfers and logistical favors. Where you celebrated with people who didn't even know my name." I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. I nodded. "Exactly. You didn't realize." She went quiet again, chewing on her lower lip. "The truth is," she said slowly, "I didn't want the world to see how much I still leaned on you. I wanted to look independent, strong, self-made. You could have been all those things," I said, without cutting me out. "I know," she admitted, tears now gathering. "I thought I was proving something." "You were," I said, "but not what you think." She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw regret in her eyes that felt real. Not performative, not dramatic, just real. "I miss you," she said. "No," I replied gently. "You miss what I did for you." She flinched, like the words hit harder than she expected. "That's not fair. It's honest." She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. Opened something, then handed it to me. A list of paused projects. Declined payments. A note from one of her investors demanding clarity before next week's pitch. "They're all freaking out," she whispered. "I'm not your fixer anymore." She nodded, eyes brimming. "So what happens now?" I stood up, walked to the desk, took out a printed copy of the spreadsheet I prepared, the one I hadn't shown her yet. Every expense I'd covered, every act of silent support, labeled, dated, totaled. I handed it to her. She didn't speak as she read. Her eyes widened. Her mouth trembled. "You kept track of all this?" "No," I said. "I kept track of me, because no one else was." Her tears finally fell, and I didn't comfort her. Not out of cruelty, but because I was finally learning what it felt like to let someone else sit with the consequences of their choices. "I need to think," she whispered. "I've already started." I didn't expect her to come back. Not so soon, anyway. The last time we spoke, if you could call it that, it ended with her holding the printed spreadsheet in her hands, silently crying while I sat by the window, arms crossed, not moving to console her. It wasn't out of coldness. I just didn't have anything left to give. That morning, I had planned to go on a long walk, maybe stop at the small cafe near the water and clear my head. I hadn't been sleeping much. Even though I wasn't at home anymore, her presence still followed me. Memories in my luggage, her voice in the back of my mind, guilt curled around my shoulders like a scarf I couldn't take off. But then the knock came. soft, tentative. I knew before I opened the door who it was. She was dressed differently this time. No heels, no statement outfit, just Isla, jeans, sneakers, and a sweatshirt that I vaguely remembered buying her one winter. Her hair was pulled up in a messy bun, no makeup on, and her eyes were red around the edges like she hadn't slept either. "Hi," she said. "I know I shouldn't be here. I didn't know where else to go." I said nothing, just stepped aside and let her in. She stood awkwardly for a moment by the small table, glancing around the modest hotel room like she'd never seen me live so simply. And maybe she hadn't. Our home had always been modern, curated, sharp. This room had none of that. Just a lamp with a loose bulb and a carpet that probably hadn't been replaced in 5 years. But it was peaceful, and it was mine. "For now. I thought you might still be mad," she said softly. I poured her a glass of water and handed it over. "I'm not mad," I replied. "I'm just done pretending." She flinched slightly at that, sat down, cradling the glass like it gave her something to hold on to. "I don't know how to say this without sounding selfish," she began, "but I didn't realize how much I took you for granted until you were gone." I stayed quiet. She sighed. "Everything's unraveling. Aspen, Bali, the board's losing confidence. I had to call off the lounge renovation. Jared keeps trying to spin things, but it's not working." "I didn't make those decisions lightly," I said. "I made them because I was tired of holding up a world that didn't leave room for me." Her voice cracked. "I know. I tried to warn you," I added. "I tried to bring it up so many times. Every time you brushed it aside, like my support was some unspoken obligation." "I know," she said again, quieter. And I was wrong. There was something heavy in her voice now. No sharp edges, no deflection. Just raw truth. It didn't make the hurt go away, but it gave it a place to settle. "I thought I was building something for us," she whispered. "But I was really building something with you holding all the bricks, and I never once asked if your hands were bleeding." That image stopped me for a moment. I sat across from her, folding my arms slowly. They were. But I kept going, because I believed in what you were doing. "I know," she said, eyes brimming again. "I know you did." And I twisted that belief into expectation. That you'd always be there. That I could just keep pulling. She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I wanted you to know that I see it now. Everything. What I did. What I failed to do." I let her words hang in the room. And I realized I had a choice. Not the choice to take her back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But the choice to speak. Not as her partner, not as her provider, but as myself. Fully honestly. "You didn't just leave me off a guest list," I said. "You left me out of the story. Out of your narrative. You turned us into a performance. And backstage, I was folding props while you took every bow." She looked up at me, guilt thick in her eyes. "I stood in that ballroom," I continued, "not because I needed the spotlight, but because I needed to remember who I was to you. And when I saw your face, when you looked at me like I was an interruption, I knew." She lowered her gaze. "I didn't mean to treat you that way." "But you did," I replied. "And the truth is, if I hadn't pulled the funding, if I hadn't made it inconvenient, you wouldn't be sitting here." She didn't argue. And that, at least, was honest. "I came because I wanted to say something to your face," she said after a moment. "I'm sorry. For every time I made you feel invisible. For every moment I made you feel like an employee in your own marriage." The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. But still, I stayed still. "Sorry," I said slowly, "doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't put me back at the table." "I know," she said, "but maybe it opens the door." She stood then, slowly, and reached into her pocket. She pulled out the Mont Blanc box I'd left on her pillow. She didn't open it, just held it out. "I didn't accept this gift the way I should have," she said. "Because I didn't see what it really was. It wasn't just a watch. It was every year, every hour, every sacrifice. And I ignored it. I let others call you names in front of me. I let you stand outside the world you helped build." She placed the box on the nightstand and stepped back. "I'm not asking for another chance right now," she said. "But I hope, maybe, one day we can look at each other and not feel resentment." I stood too, met her eyes. "That depends on what you build from here. And whether you remember who helped lay the foundation." She nodded. And for once, she didn't try to spin it, or soften it, or walk around it. She simply said, "Thank you, Reed, for everything, even what I didn't deserve." Then she walked to the door. But before she left, she turned around. I'll make it right, she said. And then she was gone. I stood in that hotel room, silent, for a long time after. The Mont Blanc sat beside me, unopened. The city hummed outside. But inside, something had finally shifted. Not everything was fixed, but the truth had finally been spoken. And sometimes, that's where healing begins. 2 days passed after Isla left the hotel room. She hadn't called again. No texts. No emails. Nothing from Jared either, which was a surprise considering how loud he'd been before. But silence has a strange way of revealing who's truly invested and who's just panicking. In their case, it was obvious. The only reason they called was because the money stopped. Not because they missed me, but because the machine I'd been oiling had started squeaking. And I didn't miss the machine. But I did find myself thinking about her, about everything we built, and how we never really sat down to balance the emotional books. So that morning, I opened the original spreadsheet, the one I had built over months, years even, to track every dollar I'd contributed to Isla's success. At first, it was just about keeping records. But now, it felt different. Now it felt like something more, like proof. Not for her. For me. I added a final tab to the bottom, emotional cost. Not literal numbers, just a space to write what each expense actually represented. I wrote things like, February 2017, $2,500 for rebranding, sleepless nights, canceled plans, skipped anniversary dinner. July 2018, for $1,000 client acquisition trip to Montreal, missing my cousin's wedding. November 2019, $3,200 for the company's team-building retreat, swallowing resentment when I wasn't invited. Line after line, I mapped out the difference between support and sacrifice. It wasn't the money that hurt. It was the invisibility, the erasure. I closed the laptop. Then, something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed, not with a call from Isla, but with a news alert. Argento and Gray hit with sudden staff resignation, citing lack of transparency in leadership. My brow furrowed. I clicked through. Corbin, her lead designer, had resigned, and in his statement, he said, leadership without loyalty fails. We didn't know where the heart of the company was anymore. I stared at that sentence for a long time. I didn't reach out. I just read. And I listened to the silence that followed. Because for once, it wasn't mine to fill. But by afternoon, the storm found me anyway. I had just stepped out for coffee, my first real outing in days, when I saw her again. Not Isla. Marcy. Her assistant. She was standing outside the cafe like she'd been waiting for me. Dressed plainly, hair tied back, nervous eyes flicking around like she wasn't sure if I'd run or scream. Reed, she said, walking up fast. I swear, I'm not here to start anything. I need to talk to someone who understands what's going on. I didn't answer right away. I quit, she said, breathless. This morning. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect that. Neither did I, she admitted. But things are imploding over there. Investors are backing out. The holiday campaign launch got shelved. Corbin leaving was a blow, but it's more than that. It's like... Isla cracked. I didn't say anything. I sipped my coffee and let her keep talking. She came into the office yesterday, Marcy went on, and she wasn't yelling or blaming anyone like I expected. She just sat at her desk and stared at that framed photo of the team from 3 years ago. You were in it, you know? The retreat in Sonoma. I remembered that retreat. I'd paid for the house and cooked meals for everyone. They thanked me like I was the caterer. She kept saying, I let him become invisible. Marcy's voice softened. I don't think she's okay. I let that sit for a while. And then, for the first time, I felt something that surprised me. Not satisfaction. Not justice. But sadness. Because for all the damage, all the cold moments and cut corners, part of me still remembered the version of Isla who used to cry from joy over small victories. The version who used to grab my hand under restaurant tables just to feel grounded. That woman had disappeared somewhere along the line. Swallowed by success, maybe. Or by the constant pressure to be more. And maybe I had disappeared too. In a different way. Letting myself become essential but invisible. Needed but never acknowledged. Marcy pulled a folded paper from her purse. She asked me to give this to you. Said she didn't trust herself to say it right. I took the note. Not quickly. Not out of eagerness. But because I knew she wouldn't have written unless she meant it. After Marcy left, I sat on a bench, unwrapped the fold carefully, and began to read. Read, I didn't know how to talk to you anymore without sounding like I wanted something. And maybe that's the problem. I always assumed you give without asking, love without limits, serve without condition. I never stopped needing you, but I stopped showing you. And that's my failure. You were the one thing in my life I never questioned. I trusted you so deeply, I forgot to protect that trust. I built a world and locked you out of it, thinking I was proving my independence. But all I really proved was that I'd lost sight of the man who built the first bricks with me. I don't expect you to come back. I don't even know if I deserve to ask that, but I hope you find peace, even if it's without me. Isla, I read it twice, then a third time. It wasn't perfect. It didn't fix anything, but it was real. That night, I didn't go back to the hotel. I didn't go to our old place either. I booked a new room. Somewhere further from the city, near the water, with no memory carved into its walls. And I sat at the edge of the dock, letter folded beside me, the Mont Blanc watch ticking steadily in my hand. I looked out at the horizon and realized that maybe this wasn't the ending, but it was a reckoning. And in some strange, quiet way, it was enough for now. The downfall didn't come as a storm. It came like a quiet shift in the air. Small things unraveling at the edges until there was no way to deny that the structure was failing. I didn't go back to the office. I didn't reply to Isla's letter, at least not right away. But I watched. And I listened. By the end of the week, it was in the news again. Argento and Gray postpones Q3 launch due to internal restructuring, they said, as though that word could hide the truth. But those who were close enough knew exactly what was happening. The people she depended on were gone, the investors uneasy, the once airtight confidence of the company now leaking through every open crack. Jared had gone radio silent. No surprise there. His loyalty was tied to outcomes, not people. Meanwhile, Isla, well, she was quiet too. Not her usual curated quiet, the kind that came with polished press releases and elegant photo shoots, but a real, raw silence. I didn't hear from her, but I heard about her. From Marcy. From one of her board advisors. Even from Corbin, who sent me a brief message on LinkedIn saying, should have seen it sooner. She was walking on your shoulders the whole time. That line stayed with me for days. Still, I didn't interfere. I wasn't out for revenge. I wasn't sitting somewhere plotting how to make her suffer. I had simply stopped holding up the weight of someone else's empire. And in my absence, the air had changed. A week later, I was walking through a small artisan market on the east side of town, picking up a few things for my new place, candles, loose-leaf tea, a handmade leather wallet, when I noticed a young woman standing at a pop-up booth. She was animated, engaged, showing a product demo to a group of curious onlookers. I wouldn't have stopped, except something about the logo on her banner caught my eye. I walked closer. Zier, natural home diffusers. Crafted by nature, engineered for peace, and then I recognized her. Zadie. She was the startup founder Isla had laughed about once at a dinner party, dismissing her as too grassroots to scale. I remember Isla saying, she's got spirit, but not much structure. Now, here she was, booth full, customers leaning in, energy humming like electricity around her. She looked up and noticed me. Reed Callahan, she asked. I nodded, half smiling. That's me. She walked over. I didn't think you'd actually follow up after that email. I said I would, I meant it. A few days earlier, I had taken a portion of the refunded Bora Bora money, the trip Isla never got to take, and invested it into Zadie's project. It wasn't a huge amount, just enough to help her secure her first warehouse space. I hadn't done it for any public reason. I did it because, unlike Isla's crowd, Zadie looked like someone who still knew how to say thank you. She grinned and held out her hand. You believed in me before the numbers looked pretty. That means a lot. I shook it. You earned it. We talked for 10 minutes about the business, her next steps, the grant application I offered to co-write with her. She didn't fawn, didn't flatter. She simply thanked me, again and again, with sincerity that couldn't be faked. And as I walked away, I realized something. I wasn't just finding peace away from Isla. I was finding purpose. Later that evening, as I sat in my small living room with one of Zadie's diffusers running, my phone buzzed again. Another article. Another fallout. Investor withdraws from Argento and Gray, citing internal discord and transparency issues. I exhaled deeply. Not out of joy. Not even out of vindication. But out of closure. That was the word that kept circling my head these days. Closure. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just the slow, deliberate process of separating what once was from what should never be again. And then, Without warning, I got a message from Isla. Just a photo. No caption. No emoji. Just a single photo of the Mont Blanc watch I gave her, resting on her now empty desk. I stared at it for a moment. The desk used to be cluttered with client files, PR plans, branding decks. Now, only the watch remained. It didn't feel like a guilt trip. It felt like a symbol, maybe even a surrender. Still, I didn't reply. Instead, I sat back and looked around my new space. No marble floors. No curated art on the walls. Just warmth. Honesty. The scent of cedarwood from the diffuser swirling in the air. And in that quiet moment, I realized I hadn't just withdrawn my money from her world. I had reclaimed my presence from a place where it was never properly held. And finally, I could breathe again. It had been almost 3 weeks since I saw Isla. 3 weeks since I pulled the financial cord that quietly powered her world. 3 weeks since she sat in my hotel room and cried for the empire she built, for the man she forgot, for the truth that finally surfaced. And in those 3 weeks, I didn't once reach out. I didn't need to. Some wounds don't heal because someone comes back. Some wounds heal because you stop reopening them for someone who never brought you peace in the first place. But I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. The anger had burned off. What remained was something colder, clearer, a sort of stillness I hadn't felt in years. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, quiet street, wood floors, nothing too flashy, just enough. And I started doing something I hadn't done in a long time. Living. On my own terms. One morning, I got an email from Zadie. The subject line read, "You might want to watch this." Inside was a video clip, less than a minute long. From a local entrepreneurship panel hosted at the City Hall. Zadie had been invited to speak about grassroots funding and community-based investment. In the clip, she stood in front of a modest audience, confidently addressing the room with the kind of energy that Isla used to have before she traded gratitude for grandeur. And then Zadie said something that made me freeze. There was one person, just one, who believed in me when I was just selling prototypes in mason jars at street fairs. He didn't ask for shares or branding rights. He didn't demand a spotlight. He just said, "Let me help you grow." That kind of support doesn't just fund your business. It reminds you who you are. The room applauded. My chest tightened, not with pride exactly, but with something more tender. Something like being remembered. For once, I hadn't been the invisible partner. I'd been the difference maker. Not behind the curtain, not erased from the photo. Present. Visible. I shut my laptop and leaned back in the chair, letting that small moment settle inside me. And it was right then that my phone lit up with a text from Isla. "Isele, are you free to meet this evening?" I stared at the screen. It wasn't dramatic. No please. No guilt-laced paragraphs. Just a question. I waited 5 minutes. Then I typed back. "Where?" We met at a small restaurant in the Arts District. Not the kind of place she used to favor. No reservations, no valet, no curated plating. Just warm lighting, soft music, and wood tables with small candles. I arrived first. She came 10 minutes later, dressed in muted colors, no makeup, hair down and loose. She looked tired. Not worn down, but like someone who'd finally stopped running. "Thank you for coming," she said as she sat down. "I was curious," I replied. The waiter brought water. Neither of us looked at the menu. She folded her hands and stared at them for a long moment. "I'm not sure how to start." "Just start," I said. She exhaled. "The company is smaller now. We've cut staff. Returned investor funds. Jared left, resigned 2 weeks ago. And I didn't stop him. I didn't react. I just listened. I've spent a lot of time sitting with the damage. Not just the business fallout, but what I did to you. How blind I let myself become." She paused, blinking back the shine in her eyes. "I used to be so afraid of not being taken seriously," she continued. "Being a woman in this field, being underestimated, dismissed. It felt like I had to always be loud, always polished, always in control. And I thought needing you made me look weak. So I hid you." "That was your choice," I said quietly. "But it wasn't just hiding me. It was erasing me. And not just from the company, from your life." She nodded. "I know. And I'm sorry. I know sorry can't undo what I did. But I wanted to say it again. This time, without excuses." The table fell quiet for a few seconds. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a document. She slid it across to me. I opened it. Legal paperwork. Transfer of business shares. A formal record of repayment for all funds I had contributed over the last 7 years. I had the board review everything, she said. I added 10% on top, interest for time. You never asked for equity, but I'm giving it anyway. You earn more than this. But this is what I can start with. I looked at the document for a long moment. I wasn't sure what to say. This isn't about fixing things between us, she added. I don't expect you to come back. I don't even know if I deserve that. This is just me, taking responsibility. And then, she said something that caught me completely off guard. I want you to know that I'm stepping down. My eyes lifted. From Argento and Gray. She nodded. Effective next quarter. I realized I don't know who I am anymore. I've been leading on a hollow platform for too long. I'm taking a sabbatical. No press release. Just quietly stepping back. That silenced me. Because in all my imaginings of what she might do next, that was never one of them. I thought stepping away would be defeat, she said. But I think it might be the first real choice I've made in years. The waiter came. We ordered 2 teas. For the rest of the hour, we didn't talk about the past. We talked about books, travel, how the sky seemed brighter lately. Simple things. Real things. And before she left, Isla stood at the table and said, I hope you find happiness, Reed. Whether that path leads back to me or far away from me. I hope you feel free. I nodded slowly. And for the first time in a long time, I actually did. Free. That night, I didn't go home with answers. But I walked away with peace. And sometimes, that's more than enough. 2 months later, I stood on the platform at Kyoto Station, backpack over my shoulder, passport tucked neatly in the chest pocket of my jacket. It was early, just past 7 a.m., and the mist still clung to the rooftops like it was unsure whether to lift or stay. I breathed in the air, crisp and clean, tinged with the scent of cedar and distant street food warming up for the day. I hadn't planned this trip months in advance. It wasn't some bucket list destination I'd dreamed of since childhood. No, this trip was impulse. It was instinct. It was the exact opposite of everything my life had been for the last 7 years. And it felt right. I boarded the train without ceremony. No fanfare. No Instagram post. No matching suitcases or synchronized itineraries. Just me. And that, for once, was more than enough. As the train glided along the tracks, the city slowly gave way to small towns and countryside. Fields blurred by. Hills rose like old friends waiting quietly. I leaned my head against the glass, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the urge to check emails, reply to anyone, or anticipate someone else's needs. I was just still, and that stillness was sacred. I thought about Isla, but not in the way I used to. She had sent one more message a few weeks ago. No questions, no requests, just a photo of her on a hiking trail somewhere in Oregon, standing next to a tree she'd captioned, learning how to slow down. One step at a time. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to. There are some journeys we must take separately, even if we once walked side by side. She was on hers. I was on mine. And that was okay. After arriving at my guest house, I spent the next few days doing something I hadn't done in years, choosing myself. I woke up without an alarm. I ate slowly, sometimes even skipping meals just because I wanted to wander instead. I visited shrines with no tour guides. I walked for hours with no destination. One morning, I sat beside a koi pond for nearly an hour, just watching the fish move. No meetings, no planning, no background noise except birdsong and wind. And the more time passed, the more I realized something. Healing doesn't always announce itself with fireworks or revelations. Sometimes it's quiet, like waking up and realizing your chest doesn't ache anymore, or walking past a couple on the street and not comparing their smiles to what you lost. It's sitting with yourself and not needing to explain why you left, or why you stayed too long. That's what closure looks like. Not a door slamming, but a door gently closing behind you, while you walk forward, not looking back. One evening, while walking through the historic district, I passed a small shop that sold handmade timepieces. Not luxury watches, not flashy status symbols, just wood, leather, and care. I stepped inside and struck up a conversation with the owner. A gray-haired man with soft eyes and hands that moved like he'd been building time instead of keeping it. He showed me a small piece, maplewood face, navy blue band, hand-carved with the words Ichigo, Ichi on the back. One moment, one meeting, he explained. It means every moment is once in a lifetime. Every person, every chance, never repeats. I bought it. Not to replace the Mont Blanc I gave Isla, but to mark the moment I stopped waiting to be chosen, and chose myself instead. That night, I stood on a small bridge, the city lights reflected in the river below. Lanterns floated along the banks. Children laughed in the distance. I checked the time, not out of obligation, but because I could. The watch read 9 p.m. And for the first time in a long, long time, it didn't feel like I was running out of time. It felt like time had finally caught up with me and said, "You're right on schedule." I turned off my phone. No buzzes. No pings. No sudden knocks on hotel doors or emergency calls asking me to fix something I didn't break. Just silence. And peace. And then I smiled. Because I finally understood what all those missed calls, all those panicked emails, all those desperate messages were really about. They weren't about me. They were about losing the version of me that made everything easier for them. The silent builder. The giver. The man who never said no. But I wasn't that man anymore. And the best part? I didn't have to prove it to anyone. Not with cold revenge. Not with court documents. Not with rage. Just with absence. Because sometimes, disappearing is the loudest thing you can do. I spent the rest of the week exploring Kyoto like a man discovering life again. I journaled. I took pictures no one else would ever see. I smiled at strangers. I even helped a lost tourist find her train. And as I packed my things on the final day, I looked around at the small room. The folded linens, the single chair by the window, the bamboo mat in the corner, and I whispered a quiet thank you. To the stillness. To the silence. To the version of me that walked away without slamming the door. As I rolled my suitcase down the narrow street toward the station, I passed a small cafe. The kind Isla would have hated. No menu in English. No Wi-Fi. No brand presence. Just steam in the window and quiet music playing. I walked in. Sat down. Ordered something I couldn't pronounce. And as the steam rose from the cup, I leaned back in my chair, checked the time one last time, and smiled. Not because someone finally saw me, but because I finally saw myself. I wake up every morning at 5 a.m., the air still cool and heavy with that quiet promise of a new day. My name's Cole Mercer, and I'm 34 years old, a guy who spent years perfecting the art of being invisible. I slip out of bed, careful not to wake Bianca, my wife, who sprawled across the sheets like she owns the world, which, in a way, she does. Her family, the Sinclairs, are old money, Charleston royalty, and I'm the nobody they let into the castle. Downstairs, I pull on my jeans and a plain t-shirt, grab my keys, and head to my coffee shop, Bean and Ground. It's a small place, all exposed brick and warm lights, tucked on a corner of downtown where the tourists wander and the locals linger. People think it's my whole life, this little shop with its humming espresso machine and chalkboard specials. They see me behind the counter, apron tied around my waist, steaming milk or wiping down tables, and they figure that's all I am, a barista with a decent smile and a steady hand. Bianca's father, Gregory Sinclair, calls me the coffee boy when he's feeling generous, which isn't often. His voice is all gravel and judgment, like he's spitting out a bad taste every time he says my name. He's a real estate king, a man who builds towers and buys loyalty with a flick of his wrist, and to him, I'm just the guy his daughter dragged home one day, a stray she decided to keep. I don't mind it, not really. I've been playing this part for years now, quiet, simple, unassuming. It's easier that way. They don't ask questions, don't dig past the surface. Gregory's never wondered why I don't complain about the bills or how I keep the shop running without begging for his handouts. Bianca's never noticed the late-night calls I take in the office upstairs or the way I slip out 4 errands that stretch into hours. They see what they want, a guy who's good with his hands, who knows his place, who doesn't rock their perfect little boat. And I let them. I pour their lattes, nod at their small talk, and keep my mouth shut. It's not like I'm lying, not exactly. The shop's real enough. I love the smell of fresh grounds, the hiss of the steamer, the way people soften when they take that first sip. It's mine, a piece of me I built from scratch. But it's not the whole story. Not even close. See, I've got secrets they'd never guess. The shop's just a front, a cozy little mask I wear while the real me moves in the shadows. I own things, big things. Companies, properties, accounts they'd choke on if they knew. But I don't flaunt it. I drive a beat-up truck to work, park it out back where no one cares to look. The fancy cars, the ones registered under a holding company nobody's heard of, stay tucked away in a garage across town. My assistant, a sharp woman named Tara, handles the real business, meetings with bankers, investors, CEOs who don't know my face until I want them to. I've got a system, a rhythm, and it works because nobody suspects a thing. Why would they? I'm just Cole, the guy who married up, the one they pat on the head and forget about. Gregory's too busy counting his millions to notice the way I watch him, the way I listen when he brags about his latest deal. Bianca's too caught up in her charity luncheons and designer dresses to see the papers I sign when she's asleep. They think I'm small, and I let them. It's safer that way for now. This morning, the shop's quiet when I unlock the door. I flip on the lights, start the grinder, and let the routine take over. The first customer's an older guy, a regular who likes his coffee black and his newspapers crisp. He nods at me, mumbles something about the weather, and I nod back. It's simple, this life I show them. Comfortable. But as I wipe down the counter, I can't help thinking about last night. Another dinner at the Sinclair mansion, another round of Gregory's jabs. How's the coffee game, Cole? He'd asked, smirking over his whiskey. Keeping the lights on? The table laughed. Bianca squeezed my hand under the cloth, and I just smiled. They don't know I could buy that mansion twice over and still have cash to burn. They don't know I've been watching, waiting, letting them dig their own graves with every word. One day, they'll see. One day, I'll step out from behind this counter and show them who I really am. But not yet. For now, I pour another cup, listen to the hum of the morning, and keep my secrets close. The game's still mine to play. The air feels thick tonight, heavy with the scent of money and perfume as I step into the Sinclair Company Gala. It's their annual show-off, held at some five-star resort just outside Charleston where the chandeliers drip crystals and the waiters glide around with trays of caviar like it's no big deal. I'm Cole Mercer, and I'm here because Bianca begged me to come. She's in her element, shimmering in a silver dress that hugs her like a second skin, her blonde hair swept up in a way that screams elegance. Me, I'm in a navy suit, tailored, sharp, something I designed myself through a quiet little fashion venture I've never told anyone about. It's not flashy, but it fits me like it was born on my shoulders. I walk beside her, my hand resting light on her back, and I can feel the eyes on us, or on her, mostly. I'm just the shadow, the guy who doesn't quite belong. We step into the ballroom, and it's like walking into a painting. Everything's gold and glass, the orchestra humming in the corner, people laughing too loud because they've got nothing real to say. Bianca's already drifting, kissing cheeks and tossing hellos like confetti. I hang back, grab a drink from a passing tray, something clear and sharp, and let the room swirl around me. Gregory's here, of course, holding court near the center, his gray hair slicked back, his tuxedo screaming power. He spots me across the crowd, gives me that half nod he thinks passes for manners, and turns back to his buddies. I'm not worth more than that to him. Never have been. I sip my drink, the ice clinking against the crystal, and wonder how long I've got to stay before I can slip out for air. These nights always feel like a performance, and I'm the understudy nobody bothered to rehearse. Then it happens, the toast. Gregory climbs up to the little stage, taps his glass with a spoon, and the room hushes like he's some kind of king. He's all smiles, that smug grin that says he owns every soul here. Some of us, he starts, his voice booming, build empires from scratch. We carve our names into the world, brick by brick. He pauses, lets the applause ripple, then his eyes find me. Others, well, they serve cappuccinos. The laugh hits like a wave, rolling through the crowd, sharp and cruel. Bianca's cousins snicker behind their hands. Some guy in a bow tie claps like it's the funniest thing he's heard all year. My fingers tighten around my glass, the cold biting into my skin, but I don't flinch. I smile instead, small, easy, like it doesn't faze me. Let them laugh. Let them think I'm the punchline. They've been doing it for years, and I've learned to wear it like a second suit. I take a slow breath, feel the anger simmering low in my chest, but I don't let it show. They don't know a damn thing. They don't know that this suit I'm wearing came from a company I own, one that's got orders stacked up from New York to Miami. They don't know I've got a stake in half the buildings Gregory brags about, hidden under layers of paperwork and fake names. And they sure as hell don't know I own the bank that's keeping his whole operation afloat right now. Eastbridge Capital. It's mine, every dime of it, and Gregory's emergency loans are sitting on my desk, waiting for my pin. One signature, that's all it'd take to pull the plug. I could end him tonight if I wanted to, watch that smug face crumple when he realizes who's been holding the strings. But I don't. Not yet. I sip my drink again, let the burn slide down my throat, and keep my eyes on him. He's still grinning, soaking up the applause, oblivious to the fact he's roasting the guy who could bury him. Bianca floats back to me, her perfume soft and sweet, and slips her arm through mine. "You okay?" she whispers, her voice low enough that no one else hears. I nod, give her a quick smile. "Fine," I say, and it's not a lie. I've been through worse than a room full of rich idiots laughing at me. She squeezes my arm, and for a second, I wonder if she knows, if she's ever suspected there's more to me than the coffee shop and the quiet nods. But then she's off again, pulled into a circle of women with diamond earrings and fake laughs, and I'm alone with my thoughts. The night drags on, all speeches and small talk, and I play my part, shake hands, make jokes, let them think I'm harmless. They don't see the way I catalog every word, every smirk. They don't know I'm counting the seconds until I can turn this game upside down. As the orchestra picks up again, I finish my drink and set the glass down hard. One day, they'll choke on that laughter. One day, they'll see who's really pouring the shots around here. But tonight, I just stand there, the invisible son-in-law, letting them have their fun. It's a quiet morning at Bean and Ground, the kind I live for. Soft sunlight spilling through the windows, the smell of fresh coffee beans grinding into something warm and alive. I'm Cole Mercer, and this place is my sanctuary, my little corner of the world where I can breathe. I'm behind the counter, apron on, steaming milk for a latte while a couple of regulars chat about the weather at a table by the door. They nod at me, I nod back, and it's easy, like it always is here. People think this is all I've got, this cozy shop with its wooden stools and handwritten menu. They see me wiping down the espresso machine, hear me call out orders, and figure I'm just a guy who lucked into marrying Bianca Sinclair. They're not wrong about the luck part. She's beautiful, sharp, the kind of woman who lights up a room. But they're dead wrong about the rest. This shop's not my whole story. It's barely a page. Years ago, I was a different man. I had a startup, nothing huge, just a tech idea I cooked up in a cramped apartment with too much coffee and not enough sleep. It was a platform for small businesses, something to help them track sales, manage inventory, keep the lights on. I poured everything into it, and when a bigger company came sniffing around, I sold it. 8 figures, modest by some standards, but enough to change my life. I didn't blow it on cars or a mansion. I'm not that guy. Instead, I reinvested, quietly, carefully. I built Eastbridge Capital, a holding company nobody's heard of because I made damn sure they wouldn't. It's got its fingers in banks, fintech startups, real estate deals stretching across 3 states. I own pieces of the world Gregory Sinclair thinks he rules, and he doesn't even know it. My name's nowhere near the letterhead, intentionally. I've got people like Tara, my assistant, running the show out front while I stay in the shadows. Freedom's what I wanted, not fame, and this setup gives me that. The coffee shop came later. I bought it on a whim after Bianca and I got married. A little place that was going under until I turned it around. It's not a front, not exactly. It's real, something I love. I like the rhythm of it, the way the grinder hums and the customers smile when I slide their drinks across the counter. It's my retreat, a place where I can step away from the suits and the boardrooms and just be Cole. But it's also my cover. Nobody looks twice at a guy pulling shots of espresso all day. They don't wonder where the money comes from, how I afford the house Bianca and I live in, or why I don't flinch when Gregory tosses his insults my way. They see the apron and stop asking questions. It's perfect, really. Lets me move through their world without them ever suspecting I'm playing a bigger game. This morning, as I hand a black coffee to a guy in a faded jacket, I think about how it all started. Back when I sold that startup, I could have gone loud, bought a yacht, flashed the cash, made sure everyone knew my name. But that's not me. I grew up with nothing, just a single mom who worked doubles to keep us fed. I learned early that loud gets you noticed, but quiet gets you power. So I built my empire brick by brick, silent as a whisper, and watched it grow. Eastbridge isn't just some side gig, it's a machine. Mid-sized banks answer to me, fintech apps I funded top the charts, and real estate portfolios fatten my accounts while I'm here steaming oat milk. I've got 3 hedge fund managers on my payroll, guys who'd laugh if they saw me in this apron. Sometimes I laugh too, thinking about it, like when Bianca's cousin smirked at me last week and said, "He makes great lattes." I just grinned and said, "Yeah, I also signed the payroll for 3 hedge fund managers." He thought I was joking. They all do. I finish the latte, slide it to a woman with a laptop and a tired smile, and wipe my hands on a towel. The shop's humming now, a steady flow of people coming in for their morning fix. I move through it like I always do, calm, steady, letting them see the version of me they're comfortable with. But in my head, I'm somewhere else. I'm thinking about the calls I'll take later, the deals Tara's lining up, the numbers I'll crunch when the shop closes. This life I've built, it's a balancing act, 1 foot in their world, 1 foot in mine. Gregory thinks he's the king. Bianca thinks I'm her sweet, simple husband, and I let them. It's safer that way. Keeps the pieces in place until I'm ready to move them. As I pour another shot of espresso, the steam rising in soft curls, I feel that familiar itch, the one that says this mask won't fit forever. One day, I'll take it off. One day, they'll see. But for now, I'm just the guy with the coffee, and that's enough. The night air hits me like a slap when I step out onto the terrace, the gala's noise fading into a dull hum behind me. I'm Cole Mercer, and I've had enough of the chandeliers and fake smiles for one evening. My navy suit feels tight, not because it doesn't fit, it's perfect, but because I'm carrying more than anyone in that room knows. I lean against the railing, the ocean breeze tugging at my hair, and take a deep breath. The crystal glass in my hand's empty now, just ice rattling around, and I'm thinking about heading back to the truck when I hear heels clicking on the stone behind me. I turn, and there's Layla Cross, Gregory's assistant, her dark hair pulled tight and her eyes darting like she's scared someone's watching. She's young, maybe 28, sharp as a tack, and the only one in the Sinclair orbit who's ever looked at me like I might be more than a coffee pourer. "Sir," she says, her voice low, almost a whisper, "we need your bank's approval." The loan paperwork was flagged for emergency review. I raise an eyebrow, keeping my face steady even as my pulse kicks up a notch. "Emergency?" I ask, casual, like I'm just making conversation. She nods, her hands twisting together. "Yes, Mr. Sinclair's Midtown project is collapsing. Without that loan, everything folds." Her words hang there, heavy, and I let them settle. The Midtown project, Gregory's big gamble, a shiny tower he's been bragging about for months. I've seen the numbers, the ones he doesn't show the public, because my bank's the one holding his leash. Eastbridge Capital's got the files, and I've got the pen. I nod slowly, letting a flicker of something, maybe amusement, dance in my eyes. "Tell Mr. Sinclair I'll review it in the morning," I say, calm as if I'm talking about the weather. Layla freezes, her mouth parting just a little, and I see it click. Her eyes widen, searching my face like she's seeing me for the first time. Not Cole the coffee guy. Cole, the CEO of Eastbridge Capital. The guy who could snap his fingers and sink her boss. She doesn't say anything for a second, just stands there, and I can almost hear the gears turning in her head. "You're..." She starts, then stops, like she's afraid to finish. I don't help her out, just tilt my head and wait. "Okay," she finally says, backing up a step. "I'll tell him." She turns and hurries off, her heels clicking faster now, and I'm alone again with the night. I set the glass on the railing, the ice glinting under the terrace lights, and let out a slow breath. This is it, the first crack in the mask I've worn for years. Layla's smart. She'll figure it out, maybe even whisper it to someone else. But I'm not worried. I've been waiting for a moment like this, a chance to let the truth peek out without me having to shout it. Gregory's in trouble, and he doesn't even know it's me holding the lifeline. That toast he gave earlier, the one where he roasted me in front of his fancy friends, echoes in my head. Others serve cappuccinos, he'd said, and they'd laughed. Now he's the one begging, and I'm the one deciding. I shove my hands in my pockets and stare out at the water, the waves rolling in soft and steady. I could sign off on that loan tonight. Keep his project afloat. Let him keep strutting around like the king he thinks he is. Or I could let it sit, let him sweat, let him figure out how deep he's dug himself. Eastbridge has the power here, and I've got Eastbridge. It's a strange feeling, standing out here with the wind in my face, knowing I've got a man like Gregory Sinclair by the throat, and he doesn't even see it yet. I think about the shop, the quiet mornings, the way I built this whole other life while they all looked the other way. The coffee's real. I love it, always will, but it's the smallest piece of me. Out here, under the stars, I feel the weight of everything else. The banks, the deals, the millions I've stacked up while they laughed. Layla's reaction sticks with me, though. That look in her eyes, shock, maybe respect, tells me the game's shifting. She's the first one to see past the apron, and it's a rush, like stepping out of a shadow I've been hiding in too long. I don't know what she'll do with it. Run to Gregory, keep it quiet, maybe just watch and wait. Doesn't matter. The seed's planted now, and I'm ready for whatever grows. I pick up the glass again, roll it between my fingers, and think about tomorrow. I'll go into the office, not the shop, the real office, and pull those loan papers. I'll sit at my desk, the one with my name in brass, and decide what happens next. Gregory's fate's in my hands, and for once, I'm not invisible. The gal is still buzzing behind me, but out here, it's just me and the truth. I smile to myself, small and sharp, and head back inside. One way or another, morning's gonna be interesting. The sun's barely up when I pull into the parking lot of Eastbridge Capital's downtown office, the truck's engine rumbling low as I kill it. I'm Cole Mercer, and today's the day I stop playing small. I step out, my boots hitting the pavement, and tug my jacket straight. Nothing fancy, just a gray blazer over a white shirt. But it's enough. The building's sleek, all glass and steel, the kind of place Gregory Sinclair would strut into without a second thought. Except today, he's coming to me, and he's got no idea what's waiting. I push through the front doors, the air cool and crisp inside, and the receptionist, Emma, a no-nonsense woman with a tight bun, looks up from her desk. "Morning, Mr. Mercer," she says, her voice smooth, professional. I nod back, "Morning," and keep walking. My name's etched in brass behind her, Cole Mercer, CEO, but most folks who come through here don't connect it to the guy in the coffee shop apron. That's how I've kept it until now. I'm barely settled in my office, big windows, dark wood desk, a view of Charleston waking up, when Emma buzzes me. "Mr. Sinclair's here," she says through the intercom. "Send him in," I reply, leaning back in my chair. The door swings open a minute later, and there he is. Gregory Sinclair, storming in like he owns the place, his face red, his tie a little crooked. He's got that look, anger mixed with panic, and it's almost funny how fast the king's crown's slipping. "I need to speak to your director," he growls, not even glancing at me yet, his eyes darting around like he's expecting someone else. Emma's voice cuts in from behind him, calm as ever. "You have an appointment with Mr. Mercer." Gregory freezes, his head snapping toward her. "Mercer," he says, like the name's a bad taste. "Yes," she replies, unfazed. "Mr. Cole Mercer, our CEO." She shuts the door as she leaves, and the silence lands hard. He turns to me then, slow, like he's moving through mud, and I see it, the moment his world tilts. His face goes pale, sour milk white, and his mouth opens but nothing comes out. I stand up, casual, and walk around the desk, the loan papers in my hand. "Coffee guy," he whispers, his voice cracking like thin ice. I stop, meet his eyes, and set the papers down on the glass table between us. "Owner," I say, my voice steady, calm. "And this coffee guy just denied your emergency loan." I tap the stack, the red denied stamp glaring up at him, and watch his jaw tighten. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stares at me like I'm a ghost who stepped out of the walls. I've waited years for this, years of his jabs, his smirks, his cappuccino cracks, and now here we are, the barista and the tycoon, and I'm the one holding the keys. "Cole," he finally says, his tone shifting, softer now, like he's testing the water. "You don't understand what this means." I tilt my head, lean against the desk, and cross my arms. "I understand plenty," I tell him. "I understand your Midtown project's a house of cards. I understand you've been scrambling for cash because your investors are pulling out. And I understand my bank's the only thing standing between you and a very public fall." His eyes narrow, but there's fear there, flickering behind the bluster. "You can't do this," he says, stepping closer. "Your family." I laugh quiet, sharp, and it stops him cold. "Family?" I echo. Family doesn't roast me in front of a room full of strangers. Family doesn't treat me like a stray dog Bianca dragged in. "You've never seen me, Gregory." "Not once. And now you're paying for it." He blinks, and I see the shift. He's not used to being on this side of the table. "What do you want?" he asks, his voice low, desperate. "An apology? Money? Name it." I shake my head, slow, deliberate. "I don't want anything from you," I say. "I've got everything I need right here." I gesture at the office, the papers, the life I built while he was busy laughing. "This isn't about revenge. It's about respect. And you've got none to give." He stares at the denied loan docs, his hands flexing like he wants to grab them, tear them up, make it all go away. But he can't. "You're ruining me," he says, almost a whisper. "No," I correct him. "You did that yourself. I just stopped bailing you out." I walk back to my chair, sit down, and let the silence stretch. He's still standing there, a man who spent his life towering over everyone, and now he's shrinking before my eyes. "You've got 24 hours to figure out another lifeline." I tell him, picking up a pen like it's just another day. Eastbridge is done with you. He doesn't move at first, just stares, then turns and walks out, his steps heavy, defeated. The door clicks shut, and I lean back, the weight of it all settling in. I'm not invisible anymore, not to him, not to anyone who's paying attention. The mask's off, and it feels good, like a breath I've been holding too long. I glance at the papers, the red stamp glowing, and think about the gala, the toast, the laughter. They won't laugh now. Not when they see who's really running the show. I'm sitting in my office at Eastbridge Capital, the afternoon sun cutting sharp lines across the desk, when Gregory comes back. I'm Cole Mercer, and yesterday I flipped his world upside down, denied his emergency loan, watched him stumble out of here like a man who'd lost his shadow. Now he's back, standing in my doorway, and he's not the same guy who stormed him before. His tie's still crooked, his hair's a little wild, and there's a desperation in his eyes I've never seen. He doesn't wait for an invite, just steps in, shuts the door, and starts talking. Cole, he says, his voice rough, like he hasn't slept. You don't know what you're doing. This will destroy my company. I lean back in my chair, fingers steepled, and let him go. He's pacing now, hands waving, throwing out numbers, projected profits, investor names, timelines, like they'll change my mind. I don't flinch, don't interrupt, just watch him unravel. He stops, plants his hands on the table, and looks at me, really looks at me, for maybe the first time since I married Bianca. I've built this from nothing, he says, his voice cracking. 40 years, Cole? 40 years of sweat and deals and sleepless nights. You can't just pull the rug out like this. I nod, slow, like I'm thinking it over, but I've already seen the files. Eastbridge's analyst tore through his books last night. Every transaction, every loan, every shady move he's made to keep his empire afloat. Maybe you should have been more careful, I say, my tone even, calm. More careful with your public insults. And your books. I slide a folder across the table, red flags marked in bright ink, phantom assets, debt shuffled around like a shell game. That's not oversight, Gregory. That's fraud. His face goes slack, like I've punched the air out of him. He grabs the folder, flips it open, and scans the pages he knows are true because he cooked them himself. Where'd you get this? He mutters, but it's not a real question. He knows. My people are good at their jobs, I tell him. Better than yours, apparently. He drops the folder, sinks into the chair across from me, and runs a hand over his face. You've got no idea what this'll do, he says, quieter now, almost pleading. The jobs, the families, hundreds of people depend on me. I lean forward, elbows on the desk, and meet his gaze. Then you should have thought about them before you started laundering debt, I say. Before you stood up at that gala and made me the joke of the night. He flinches, and I see it, the memory of that toast hitting him like a brick. Some of us build empires, he'd said, smirking while they laughed. Now he's not laughing. Cole, he tries again, softer. I didn't mean it like that. It was just talk. I cut him off. It was you, I say, sharp. That's who you are. You've spent years treating me like dirt, and I let you. I stood there, smiled, poured your damn coffee, and you never once wondered who I was. Well, now you know. He stares at me, his mouth working like he's got something else to say, but nothing comes. If I go down, he starts, then trails off. I finish it for him. You already did. The moment you opened your mouth last night. I push back from the desk, stand up, and walk to the window. The city's buzzing below, cars, people, life moving on, and I feel the shift inside me. This isn't just about the loan anymore. It's about all of it. The years I've swallowed his crap, the way he's looked through me like I'm nothing. I turn back, and he's still sitting there, deflated, a king without a throne. You've got options, I say, though I know he doesn't, not really. Sell what you can, call in favors, find another bank dumb enough to touch you. But Eastbridge? We're out. He doesn't move, just stares at the floor, and I wonder if he's finally seeing it, the hole he's dug, the one I'm not climbing in to pull him out of. I could have signed that loan. Could have kept his tower standing, let him keep his crown. But why? So he could roast me again next year? So he could keep pretending I'm less than him? No. I've got my own empire, built quiet and strong, and I don't need his approval to sleep at night. You've got till the end of the week, I tell him, walking back to my chair. After that, the creditors will come knocking. Good luck. He looks up at me then, and there's something raw in his eyes, fear, maybe regret, but it's too late for that. He stands, slow, like his bones ache, and heads for the door. This isn't over, he mutters, but it's weak, a last gasp. Yeah, it is, I say, and he's gone. I sit back down, the folders still open on the table, and let out a long breath. The Empire's cracking his, not mine, and I'm the one who swung the hammer. It feels heavy, but right. I've been invisible too long, and now the pieces are falling where they belong. Gregory's not the only one who'll feel this. Bianca's next, and the family, and the world outside these walls. But for now, it's just me and the quiet, and I'm okay with that. I'm home when it all comes crashing down, sitting in the kitchen with a beer I haven't touched, the bottle sweating on the counter. I'm Cole Mercer, and today's been a hell of a ride. Denying Gregory's loan, watching his empire teeter, feeling the weight of my own power settle in. The house is quiet, too quiet, until the front door slams open and Bianca storms in. She's a whirlwind, hair loose, eyes wild, her heels clicking sharp against the hardwood. She knows. I can tell before she even opens her mouth. She drops her bag on the floor, stares at me like I'm a stranger, and says, "You did this." Her voice is tight, shaking, and I don't play dumb. "Yeah," I say, calm, meeting her gaze. "I did." She paces, hands flying to her hips, then her hair, then back again. "My father called me," she says, her words spilling fast. "He's a mess, Cole. A mess. He said you own some bank, that you killed his loan, that you're tearing everything apart. Is that true?" I nod, slow, and take a sip of the beer just to steady myself. "It's true," I tell her. "Eastbridge Capital's mine. Has been for years. I denied his loan because he's been cooking his books, Bianca. Fraud. The kind that doesn't just hurt him. It hurts everyone tied to him." She stops pacing, stares at me, and her mouth drops open. "Years?" she whispers. "You've had this whole thing, and you never told me?" Her voice cracks, and I see the hurt there, sharp and real. I stand up, move around the counter, but keep my distance. "I built it," I say, keeping it simple. "Started with a startup I sold, turned it into something bigger, banks, real estate, investments. I kept it quiet because I didn't need the noise. Didn't need your dad or anyone else telling me who I should be." She shakes her head, fast, like she's trying to shake my words out. "You lied to me," she says louder now. "All this time, I thought you were just the coffee shop guy. My husband, the sweet, simple guy who married me. And you're what, a billionaire? Some secret king." I wince at that, but don't back down. "I didn't lie," I say. "I just didn't tell you everything. You never asked, Bianca. None of you did. You all saw what you wanted. Me in an apron, pouring drinks, staying small so you could feel big." Her eyes flash, and she steps closer, jabbing a finger at me. "Don't you dare put this on me," she snaps. "You hid this. You let me think. God, Cole, you let my father treat you like trash, and you just smiled. Why? Why didn't you say something?" I take a breath, feel the old anger stir, and let it out slow. "Because I didn't need his respect," I tell her. "Or yours, back then. I built what I built for me, not to prove anything to him. But yeah, I let him talk. I let him laugh. And you know what? I'm done with that now. Done being the stray dog your family kicks around." She freezes, her hand dropping, and I see the tears welling up. "You think that's what I saw you as?" she asks, her voice softer, breaking. "A stray?" I shrug, not harsh, just honest. "That's how it felt," I say. "Every dinner, every party, every time he called me coffee boy, and you didn't say a word. I was invisible, Bianca. To all of you." She wipes her eyes, quick, like she's mad at herself for crying. "I didn't know," she says. "I didn't know you were this." She gestures at nothing, everything, the life I've kept under wraps. "How could I? You never let me in." I step closer now, close enough to see the way her shoulders shake. "I didn't let anyone in," I admit. "Not because I didn't trust you. Because I liked the quiet. Liked being the guy nobody expected anything from. But that's over. Your dad's crashing, and I'm the one who pushed him. That's who I am now, whether you like it or not." She looks at me, long and hard, and I can see her torn loyalty to her father, the man who raised her, warring with the reality of me, the husband she thought she knew. "What am I supposed to do with this?" she asks, almost to herself. "He's my family, Cole, and you're breaking him." I don't make her choose, not yet. "I'm not asking you to pick sides," I say, my voice steady. "But I'm not invisible anymore, Bianca. I've got power, I've got a name, and I'm not hiding it to keep him comfortable. If that's too much for you, if you can't handle me being more than the coffee guy, you're free to walk." Her breath catches, and she stares at me like I've slapped her. Walk, she echoes. You'd let me go, just like that? I nod slow. If that's what you need, I say. But if you stay, it's with the real me. No more pretending. She doesn't answer, just turns and grabs her bag, her heels clicking as she heads for the stairs. I don't stop her, don't call out. The door upstairs shuts, and I'm alone again, the beer still cold in my hand. I sit back down, take a long drink, and feel the quiet settle. She's shaken, I get that. Her whole world's tilting, and I'm the one who rocked it. But I meant what I said. No more masks, no more swallowing their crap. If she can't handle it, that's her call. For now, I've got my own mess to sort, Gregory's fallout, the business, the life I've been building. The family's cracking, and I'm at the center of it. But I'm not backing down. Not anymore. I'm standing in my office at Eastbridge Capital, staring out the window as the city hums below when the news breaks. I'm Cole Mercer, and the past few days have been a storm, denying Gregory's loan, facing Bianca's anger, watching the cracks spread through the Sinclair family. Now it's gone public, and there's no hiding anymore. My phone buzzes on the desk, a dozen notifications piling up, but I don't need to check them to know what's happening. I turn on the TV mounted in the corner, and there it is, splashed across the financial news. Sinclair empire implodes after secret bank CEO shuts off Lifeline. The anchor's voice is crisp, excited, like she's reading a thriller. Sources confirm Cole Mercer, CEO of Eastbridge Capital. And, yes, the unassuming coffee shop owner married to Bianca Sinclair Mercer, denied an emergency loan critical to Gregory Sinclair's Midtown project. The fallout? A domino effect threatening to topple one of Charleston's oldest real estate dynasties. I mute it. Let the images roll, stock footage of Gregory's buildings, a shot of me pouring coffee at Bean and Ground, pulled from some old local feature. It's surreal, seeing my two worlds smashed together like this. The phone buzzes again, and this time I pick it up. It's Tara, my assistant, her voice steady but quick. It's everywhere, Cole, she says. CNN, Bloomberg, even the local stations. Gregory's spinning it, gave a statement calling you ungrateful, says he gave you a chance by letting you into the family. I laugh, short and dry. A chance, I say. He gave me nothing but a target on my back. Tara's quiet for a second, then, Layla Cross just posted online too. Resigned publicly. She's backing you up, says Gregory's arrogance did him in. I nod, even though she can't see me. Good, I say. Let it burn. I hang up and pull up Layla's post on my laptop. It's short, sharp, and brutal. I worked for Gregory Sinclair for 5 years. I watched him laugh at a man who held his survival in one signature, Cole Mercer. That gala toast was his last mistake. I'm out. The comments are exploding, some calling her a traitor, others cheering her on, most just stunned. I lean back in my chair, the weight of it sinking in. This isn't just about me and Gregory anymore. It's a reckoning, loud and public, and I'm the guy who lit the match. Gregory's out there, flailing, trying to paint me as the bad guy, but it's not sticking. Not with Layla's words out there, not with the truth seeping through the cracks he can't plug. I head downstairs, needing air, and step into the lobby just as a reporter spots me through the glass doors. She's young, eager, shoving a mic my way the second I'm outside. Mr. Mercer, she calls. Any comment on the Sinclair collapse? On your role in it. I stop, look at her, and keep it simple. Gregory made his choices, I say. I made mine. That's all. I push past before she can follow up, heading for my truck. The streets buzzing, people glancing my way, whispering, phones out like I'm some kind of celebrity. I've spent years blending in, and now I'm the guy they can't stop staring at. It's strange, but I don't hate it, not yet. Back at home, the TV's still on when I walk in, Bianca nowhere in sight. She's been distant since our fight, sleeping in the guest room, avoiding me like I'm a bomb she doesn't know how to defuse. I don't blame her. This is a lot, and she's caught in the middle. The news cycles Gregory's statement again, his voice clipped and bitter. I welcomed Cole into my family, gave him a chance, and this is how he repays me. I turn it off, sick of his lies. He didn't give me anything. I took it, built it, earned it while he was busy laughing. The phone rings. Local number, probably another reporter, and I let it go to voicemail. I'm done talking for now. The world's got enough to chew on. Later, I drive to the coffee shop, needing something normal. The regulars are there, sipping their drinks, but they're looking at me different, curious, maybe impressed. Old man Joe, who's been coming in forever, sets his paper down and grins. Heard you're a big shot now, Cole, he says. I shrug. Pour him a refill. Just a guy with a coffee pot, I say, and he chuckles. But it's not the same, and I know it. The mask's off, and the reckoning's here. Gregory's empire's crumbling, creditors circling, projects stalling, and I'm the name on everyone's lips. I could have stayed quiet, kept the loan flowing, let him keep his throne. But I didn't. I stepped up, and now the world knows who I am. I lock up late, the shop dark and still, and sit at the counter with a cold cup I don't drink. Layla's post keeps running through my head. He laughed at a man who held his survival in one signature. That's it, right there. Gregory thought he was untouchable, thought I was nothing. Now he's scrambling, and I'm standing tall. The public's watching, judging, picking sides, but I don't care what they think. This was never about them. It was about me, about respect, about taking back what I let him steal every time he opened his mouth. I head home, the city lights blurring past, and feel the shift. The barista's gone. The king's here. And I'm not stepping back into the shadows. I'm sitting at my desk at Eastbridge Capital, the morning light slanting through the windows, when Tara walks in with a stack of papers and a grin. I'm Cole Mercer, and the past week's been a whirlwind, Gregory's empire crashing, the news blowing up, my name everywhere. Now it's time to move forward. Auction results, Tara says, dropping the stack in front of me. Sinclair's properties, Midtown, the waterfront lots, a couple downtown buildings, all ours. Dirt cheap, too. I lean back, take the top sheet, and scan the numbers. He's right, they're steals, picked up from the wreckage of Gregory's collapse. Creditors swooped in fast, and Eastbridge was ready. Good. Let's get moving on the rebrand. She nods, already on it, and I feel the shift. This isn't just cleanup, it's creation. I've been planning this for a while, something new, something mine. Coal Groundworks, a passion project I've kept in my head until now. The idea is simple. Take those properties and turn them into something real. Affordable housing, community spaces, places people can live and breathe, not just towers for rich folks to gawk at. Gregory built for ego. I'm building for life. I spend the mornings sketching it out. Low-rise apartments with green roofs, a community center with a daycare, maybe a park where kids can run. Tara's on the phone with architects, developers, people who get it. By noon, we've got a plan rolling, and it feels good, better than watching Gregory fall, better than proving a point. This is what I've wanted. Power that does something, not just takes. I don't hide anymore. The coffee shop's still mine. I'm there the next day, pouring espresso, wiping counters, but it's different now. People know who I am. Regulars like Joe grin wider, strangers linger, asking questions. Heard you're some kind of tycoon, a guy in a ball cap says, sipping his black coffee. I shrug, smile. Just a guy who got lucky, I tell him, but they don't buy it. The apron's still on, but the mask's off, and I'm okay with that. Then the call comes, Forbes Local Legends, a magazine I've flipped through at the shop. We want your story, the editor says, her voice bright. From barista to billionaire, people are eating it up. I hesitate, then say yes. Why not? I've spent years in the shadows. Might as well step into the light. The interview's quick, over the phone, and I keep it honest. I tell her about the startup I sold, the quiet years building Eastbridge, the coffee shop as my cover. Why'd you stay quiet so long? She asks. I pause, think about Gregory's smirks, the gala toast, the way they all saw me. I didn't need them to know, I say. Not until it mattered. She digs into the Sinclair fallout, how I denied the loan, how it sparked the collapse. Some call it revenge, she says. Was it? I shake my head, even though she can't see. Not revenge, I tell her. Respect. They didn't give it, so I took it. The piece drops a few days later, and there I am on the cover, from barista to billionaire. The man who taught respect the hard way. It's me at the shop, apron on, smiling soft, with a skyline behind me. Bianca leaves a copy on the counter at home. No note, just there. She's still distant, moving through the house like a ghost since our fight. I don't push, let her figure it out. The world's loud now, but I'm settling into quiet again, a different kind. I drive to one of the auction sites that afternoon, a rundown lot Gregory once bragged about. It's empty, weeds poking through cracked concrete, but I see it. Apartments, families, life. I walk the perimeter, boots crunching, and feel the weight lift. This is mine, not his. I'm not the coffee guy anymore, not the invisible son-in-law. I'm the one building something new, and they can't laugh that away. The shop's busy later, a line out the door, and I'm in the thick of it, steaming milk, pulling shots, joking with customers. A kid asked for my autograph, holding up the Forbes cover, and I laugh. Sign it with a marker from the drawer. You're famous, he says, grinning. Maybe, I tell him, sliding his hot chocolate across. We're just lucky. But it's more than luck. It's years of work, of watching, of waiting for the right moment. Gregory's gone quiet. Creditors took what was left. His name's mud. But I don't gloat. I don't need to. The reckoning's done, and I'm still standing. Night falls, and I lock up, the shop dark and still. I sit at the counter, the magazine open in front of me, and read the headline again. Billionaire. It's real now, not just numbers in an account. I've got power, a voice, a chance to do something good. Cold Groundworks is just the start. More projects, more change. I'm not loud about it. Don't need to be. The world's watching, but I'm still me, quiet, steady, the guy who knows how to wait. I flip off the lights, head home, and feel the calm settle. They laughed once. Now they see. And I'm just getting started. It's a cool evening when I'm at Bean and Ground, the shop winding down after a busy day. I'm Cole Mercer, and the last few months have been a ride. Gregory's collapse, the public fallout, building Cold Groundworks from the ashes. Now I'm here, behind the counter, pouring a cappuccino for an old man who's got his nose in a book. The foam swirls just right, and I slide it across with a nod. He mumbles a thanks, doesn't look up, and I smile to myself. This place still feels like home, even with everything else spinning around me. The door chimes, and I glance up. Bianca's standing there. No entourage, no flash, just her in a simple coat and jeans. Her eyes are soft, a little red, and she's holding herself like she's not sure she's welcome. I wipe my hands on a towel, keep my face steady, and wait. She steps closer, stops at the counter, and looks at me, really looks, like she's seeing me for the first time in weeks. You were never small, she says, her voice low, almost breaking. They just needed me to be, I reply, keeping it simple, honest. She nods, slow, and I see the tears glisten, but she blinks them back. I'm sorry, she says, and it's real sincere, not forced. For not seeing you. For letting them. For everything. I don't say anything right away, just lean against the counter and let her words hang there. It's been tense since our fight, her pulling away, me giving her space. But this feels different, like she's finally catching up to who I am. I grab a mug, start pouring her a coffee, her usual, black with a hint of cinnamon, and slide it over. No bitterness left, I say, tapping the rim. Just a full-bodied finish. She laughs, soft, and it's the first time I've heard that sound in too long. She takes the mug, wraps her hands around it, and sits on a stool. I read the Forbes piece, she says, sipping slow. It's good. True. I nod, grab a rag, and start wiping down the espresso machine, just to keep my hands busy. It's me, I tell her. All of it. She sets the mug down, looks at me again. I didn't know what to do, Cole. With Dad falling apart, with you being this. I was mad, scared. But I get it now. You didn't owe us anything. I stop wiping, lean on the counter across from her. I didn't do it to hurt you, I say. Or him, even. It was about me, about not being the guy they walked over anymore. She nods, her fingers tracing the mug's edge. He's gone quiet, she says. Sold the house, moved somewhere smaller. He's not fighting anymore. I don't say anything to that. Just let it sit. Gregory's done, and I don't need to kick him while he's down. And us? I ask, keeping my voice even. She looks up, holds my gaze. I don't want to walk, she says. I want to try. With you, all of you, not just the coffee guy. It's not a promise, not a fix, but it's something. I nod, slow, and pour myself a coffee too. We sit there, the shop empty now except for the old man in the corner, and it's quiet, comfortable, like it used to be before everything blew up. I'm still me, I tell her. The shop, the coffee, it's not a lie. Just not the whole story. She smiles, faint but real. I like that story, she says. And the rest of it too. I don't push for more, don't need to. She's here, and that's enough for now. I finish my coffee, glance out the window at the city moving slow beyond the glass. It's strange how it all turned out. I spent years invisible, letting them laugh, building something they couldn't see. Now the world knows, Gregory's down, I'm up, and the pieces have settled. I think about the gala, that toast, the way they roared while I stood there with a smile. They don't laugh now. They can't. I've got Eastbridge, Cold Groundworks, a name that means something. But this shop, this little corner, it's still where I feel right. I lock up after Bianca leaves, promising to talk more at home, and stand outside, the night air cool on my face. I think about justice, how it brews quiet, slow, until it's ready. Gregory thought he held the power, thought I was nothing. But I watched, waited, built my own. Now he's the one fading, and I'm the one standing. It's not loud, not flashy. I don't need it to be. The old man's gone, the shop's dark, and I head to the truck, the keys jangling in my hand. Bianca's waiting, the projects are rolling, and I've got no regrets. Sometimes the world's loudest people overlook the quietest power, I think, climbing in. That's where I won, where I'll keep winning. The engine starts, and I drive home, the city lights fading behind me, the final cup poured.